First morning in Arizona, just hike up to the top of a big ridge. Was starting to glass down in some washes. We found a nice muley that we're gonna make a move on. So after hiking all the way to the top, grabbed all my shit. I'm gonna hike all the way down to the bottom, dump most of my stuff off at the truck, and then kind of make this big, probably about a mile loop to get around this buck and this group of does that he's with. They're headed towards an old tank, so we're hoping I can get there before them and set up for a good shot. Okay, here's the deal. So we walked about 3/4 of a mile, got to a nice opening. I'm gonna drop my pack and all my shit right here. Still, bucks are probably still another 300-400 yards away. Lost sight of them, my spotter lost sight of them. But we know where they hold up, and it's the time of day where they're probably gonna lay down for a little while. So I'm just gonna be real cautious and take my time from here on out. Well, no luck on that stalk. We actually lost sight of the buck before I headed into the wash for my final stalk. A bunch of other deer blew out, and we're not sure if he left with them or we thought maybe he bedded down. So I actually spent about the last hour and a half just still hunting the wash back and forth. I didn't bump him, so either he saw me and he just held up firm, or he snuck out before I even went in there. Either way, you gotta try. I was already all the way down here, so did the best I could. Gonna have a quick snack, drink some water, and then head back up the mountain and see if I can glass up another deer. All right, headed back in for round two. Went back to the truck, had some food and water, and we spotted another group of does, and there's two small bucks, but it's pretty reasonable that there should be another larger buck close by. So it's a bit of a long shot, but we ain't got any other plays right now, so I might as well try. So I'm gonna hike back up to the road. I'm gonna make a play on a wash on the other side of the road from where I was last time. So here we go. All right, it's the morning of day two, and we're a little bit behind the 8 ball. It started pissing rain last night, continued all the way into the morning. So we drove out to the area where we saw the big buck yesterday. We sat in the truck for an hour or so while the rain petered out. Now, game plan is Chad's headed up the mountain to see if he can spot this buck that I put a stalk on yesterday. The idea being, I'll be quicker to respond if I'm already down here. So if Chad can see the buck, I'm gonna burn up there and put a stalk in the big muley. If he doesn't see the big buck in the first 20 or 30 minutes, I'm gonna grab all my shit, rip up the mountain, and start tearing this area apart with the glass with him. All right, we're midway through day two, and there's not been a whole lot of action today. That heavy rain this morning, I think, really shut things down, and now it's starting to heat up a bit, so I don't think they're really being motivated to get up and move around. And I thought maybe I'd just share a little bit about the kind of mind frame and the perspective that helps on a hunt like this. There can be a lot of nothing for extended periods of time, and if that's not something your mind's comfortable with or something that you're into and you enjoy, think twice about doing a hunt like this, because we could literally sit up here from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock at night and do nothing except make little 20-foot moves around the peak of this hill and just glass and glass and glass. I'm not going to say it's not challenging. It's deeply challenging, but I think shifting your perspective to a place where you enjoy the kind of monotonous grind and the quiet challenge of it all. Like, it's not a sexy challenge. It's not like bivvy hunting elk, where the challenge is running up mountains and chasing elk and being really physical. Like that's like a noble, easy to get behind challenge. This is a challenge of a completely different sort, and it's not nearly as romantic as something like, chasing elk in the rut. But I think you can learn just as much about yourself through an experience like this as you can from an experience like that. I think as a hunter, it's great to expose ourselves to all kinds of different opportunities, and we can see how we react and what we like about each of those. Anyways, little side rant in the middle of a kind of hot day. Just going to keep glassing and grinding it out, and hopefully we'll turn something up here and hopefully get on a stalk before the end of the day. All right, well, that's a wrap on day 2. It was a bit of a grind today. We did finally see one big buck, but he was just cruising so fast and so erratically that we glassed him until he was gone, out of sight. Lost him in a big wash about 1,500 yards away, and he just never stood still long enough to make a play on him. So game plan for tomorrow is the same as it was for day 1 and day 2. We're gonna come back to this hill over here, and we're gonna look for the big buck that we've been targeting since day 1. This buck today wasn't quite as big as the one that we're targeting, but I still 100% would have been more than happy to go after this buck today. So just got to keep grinding it out and hoping for the best. All right, morning of day 3. This has not been a very exciting film so far. And if you're wondering why, it's because I'm approaching this hunt different really than I have any other hunt my entire hunting career. This is the first time that I've singled out an individual buck, 2 bucks actually, that I want to focus all my attention and energy on, and I'll play this kind of like low odds, high reward strategy. People get the idea of trophy hunting all screwed up. Trophy hunting is not about hanging something on your wall out of pride. It's about making a decision that you've become a good enough hunter that you're willing to go after the best representation of that species. You want the hardest fight possible so that when you win, you can feel a sense of accomplishment. And not only that, you've made it as fair a fight as possible. So I've had a great year. I've taken 5 animals this year. None of them have been spectacular animals, and I feel like it's not just about going out and shooting the first thing that walks in front of me anymore. It's about going out and looking for something that's a fair fight, that's cagey and wily and old and knows its terrain. It's a much more difficult hunt, but I think it also tests me much more as a hunter. So that's kind of what's going on right now. I'm sitting on the same hill every day from dawn to dusk. I'm looking at the same country every day from dawn to dusk. And I'm not going to other areas where I know there's more shot opportunities. I'm staying here where I know one of these 2 big bucks is going to show up. So anyways, we know the big buck is in the area today. We have him spotted. I'm getting ready to potentially go put a stalk on, but the thing we've learned over the last few days is that I can't just head out when he's cruising. I gotta wait for this guy to find some does or bed down, become somewhat stationary, or have his attention drawn to something else like does, so that I can actually have a chance of making a play, because otherwise his movements are just too erratic. It's not even about, I could set up an ambush if his direction was in a reliable manner, but it's not. He's all over the place. So anyways, this is a really long-winded rant. I just wanted to say I'm trying to approach hunting in a more mature manner. I'm trying to evolve as a hunter and kind of take up the next challenge that lies in front of me. And that's why there's not been a ton of action. But I can promise you this: if I get a decent stalk on this big buck, and if I'm able to put him down, that will be, the most exciting thing this film, and likely any of my films, has to offer. So stay tuned. Hopefully I can pull it together. Good morning at day 4. Rinse and repeat. We got a bedded buck. Unfortunately, he's with a shitload of does. So it's gonna be tough. We're gonna play it slow, we're gonna play it quiet, and we're gonna hope for the best. So here we go. After 4 long days, we got it done in Arizona. So here's the deal. Truck is about 700 yards away. My spotter, Chad, was up on that hill right there. Give him full credit for spotting this buck. It's the same buck we've been targeting all week, tank. Left the truck, took me about an hour to stalk into about 70 yards over there. From that point on, I was within 150 to 250 of a group of 15 does and 2 bucks. The one target buck and a second older, slightly regressed buck. It took us about 45 minutes of me mesquite hopping, getting from one mesquite to another mesquite, trying to read the body language of the herd. And basically they were moving slowly and I was moving slowly, and we kept making these micro adjustments to put me in their path. And Chad kept saying, you know, glass tier 11, glass tier 1. I couldn't see the deer. He could see the deer. It was getting kind of stressful because he really thought I should have been able to see the deer, but it's just thick mesquite in here and I couldn't see anything. Finally, I see the first couple does. I realize I'm a little far to one side. I hop over 2 more mesquite. I finally set up on this mesquite here. And it was this shade right here that I wanted. So I was standing right here. I started to see does pop out about 70 yards in front of me in this range over here. It was at that point I came to full draw, and it might have been a little bit early. I stepped out of the shadows and I had a clear shot, and I had ranged a mesquite at 60 yards. I could see the buck trailing one doe. I watched the doe walk in front of the mesquite at 60 yards. So I compensated 5 yards for that. I put my 55-yard pin, 50-meter pin, on the doe, waited for the doe to move. The buck walked into sight. I just picked my spot, man, aim small, miss small. I used a hinge release. Everything went quiet. I saw my bubble was leveled. Pull, pull, pull. And you'll see when we do this walk up, I mean, there's some shit in the way. But I knew I had a clear path, and the arrow just, nobody jumped the bow. This is a lesson, kids. Heavy arrows, quiet your bow. 600 grain arrow, by the way. And then, boom, I could hear it thump him, and then boom, he took off running. So now let's go see what the actual aftermath was. Okay, so. And this, so you can see back there's where I came from. And this is where the buck was standing. Now you want to see the craziest part? Look what is 10 yards further. That's my arrow stuck in to a cactus 10 yards after the pass through. Testament to iron wheel broadheads, by the way. Amazing broadheads. So at this point, I'm shaking like a leaf. He took off running. I can't see anything. Chad's got him in the glass. Long story short, shot placement was excellent. He was quartering to me a little bit more than I thought he was. I caught the front lung and maybe a little bit of the offside lung and definitely the liver. He ran exactly 200 yards, piled up, laid there and twitched for 20 minutes, and then expired. This is possibly, except for my elk in September, this might be the most rewarding hunt I have ever had. I mean, this is the second year that I've been in Arizona. I failed my first year. We've hunted hard the last 4 days. I've never gotten closer than 300 yards all 4 days. It's very challenging terrain with very crafty deer. And I feel like just the teamwork between me and my spotter, you know, his knowledge of the land, and then my ability to stalk in pretty quietly and place a decent shot, 55 yards with a fixed blade broadhead. I mean, that's a solid shot. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. So now I'm gonna walk over to the deer, take some pictures, show some respect. Again, I just thank everybody who helps support me and come on these adventures, and just beyond words to express my gratitude. Super excited.